Since the turn of the new century, a lot has changed in football. Teams are playing the beautiful game with much more intensity than ever before, while defenders are now required to be a bit more diverse when it comes to overall skill set. Indeed, coaches at the best clubs in the world now prefer more rounded athletes than specialists. This is perhaps the reason why players such as Mario Götze are no more as successful as they were a few years back. The fullback position has gone through a huge period of transformation. From being just another man required to defend, a fullback is now expected to be that extra outlet for a team on the offensive front. Fullbacks nowadays are required to be more athletic and need to have a decent passing range as well. This is not a role for everyone, which is perhaps why we cannot really bump into a lot of world-class fullbacks these days that are capable of delivering consistently. Hello everyone, and welcome to yet another exciting video on your favourite channel Goalside, where we aim to bring you fresh football content every day. Make sure to watch out for the question in today's video so that you get to have a chance of winning a $100 Amazon gift card. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to our channel so that you're always notified every time we upload a new video. In today's video, we're going to talk about a young left back who's rapidly becoming one of the best players in his position. While he may not have come from a country that's produced tons of elite football players, Alphonso Davies is carrying the Canadian flag proudly while representing Bayern Munich in the German Bundesliga. Back in 2016, Davies was a precocious talent playing with the Vancouver Whitecaps in the Major League Soccer. At that time, he was a relatively unknown quantity. However, Manchester United were the first big team to be linked with him. Their senior North American scout, Jorge Alvial, had fallen under the young player's charms after watching him play. The scout would go on to send around 40 reports to the Theatre of Dreams. Sadly though, Manchester United's decision makers were far too busy trying to make big transfers happen. A year later though, the youngster was making all the right noises in the MLS that also included delivering a stirring speech in support of Canada's bid for the World Cup. Throw in a much-deserved Golden Boot performance at the Gold Cup and Davies was a true star in the making. Many people believe that the move to Bayern Munich was a pretty straightforward one. That, however, was not the case. According to the youngster's agent, Nick Huose, the Bavarians did show a lot of interest, but they eventually stopped contacting the player's entourage. However, the German giant then put in an offer to buy the youngster. Once it became known that Munich had made an offer, the likes of VfB Stuttgart, Manchester United and Barcelona made their interest known as well. However, it was the Bavarians who impressed Davies the most, thanks to a well thought out plan for his development and eventual integration with the first team. Davies was promised regular first team outings and a support system that would not affect his stay. The transfer was finally agreed, as Bayern paid the Whitecaps €11.3 million for one of the most coveted players on the planet. With only 30 Bundesliga appearances under his belt, Alphonso Davies is now considered as one of the most promising fullbacks on the planet. The Canadian has even been touted as a legend in the making, and who can blame them? It's clearly a story that would melt your heart. Born in a refugee camp in Ghana to Liberian parents, managed to flee from the political turmoil, the youngster arrived in Canada when he was 5. As his parents worked hard round the clock to provide for the family, it became clear that Davies was a rare talent. So how is it that Alphonso Davies has evolved from a winger to a modern fullback? During his entire time in the MLS, Davies was playing as a winger, but at Bayern Munich he was transformed into a one-of-a-kind fullback. The youngster has actually a very high defensive work rate, as evidenced by the number of tackles, 1.41, he won per game in the 2018 MLS season. Davies also had 1.26 interceptions per 90 minutes in the same season. In his first appearance of the season in a game against RB Leipzig, Davies showcased some truly great defensive qualities. During many instances throughout the game, the young fullback would return to his defensive duties very quickly every time a Bayern Munich attacking move broke down. Now, such an impressive bit of work rate would be amazing for most of the teams in Europe, but not necessary for Bayern Munich, who currently have the highest average possession in the league. The reigning German champions do not require such work rate from their wingers. This is why Davies was instead deployed as a fullback, since that allows him to go further up the pitch and become another option in attack, whilst also recovering well when the need arises. While Munich do like to operate in a 4-3-3 formation, they also have a tendency to drop their pivot deep in their own territory. This allows the team's fullbacks to operate further up the pitch, which as a consequence changes the formation to a 3-4-3. Therefore, being a fullback doesn't impede upon Davies' attacking output. Regardless of where he's placed, Davies' attacking tendencies cannot be contained. Most of his movements are in the opposition half, which clearly proves that he is a great athlete, and having him paired up with a winger such as Serge Gnabry can make life difficult for teams. Furthermore, Alphonso Davies has blistering pace, which has been put out on displays throughout the course of his career in Germany. His pace can be deadly, especially when the team is in attacking mode. Throughout the current campaign, Davies' pace and direct runs have made things really difficult for many defenders out there. The way he receives the ball and then starts galloping like a Roadrunner creates a lot of space for his teammates to exploit. But that's not all. While his pace is definitely something that's been noticed by everyone, it's his ability to keep the ball close to his body while on a run is what makes him a frightening prospect. The youngster averages around 4 progressive runs per 90 minutes and has attempted 8.7 dribbles per 90. And while his success rate is 56.8%, we're sure these numbers are going to improve as he matures and gains more experience. Or is the success rate the reason why Hansi Flick has momentarily moved him to the left-back role? Now moving on to the defensive side of things, Alphonso Davies' pace has been his greatest asset. The youngster averages 11.22 recoveries and 5.19 interceptions per 90 minutes, which is another great reason why the fullback role is made for him. In a Champions League game against Chelsea, one particular moment showed how effective Davies is when it comes to catching onto an opponent. During one of the plays, Mason Mount received a through ball and had a 3-yard head start on Davies. However, the Canadian easily recovered the ball and even managed to hold off the England international as the ball went out for a goal kick. The impressive manner in which he made the recovery meant that Mount was unable to even hit the target or square the ball to one of his teammates. But hey, if you thought that this was it, well, we've got news for you. Pace, recovery, and overlapping runs aren't the only tools that make Davies such a huge talent. As a wide player, it's important to have a good final ball, and the Canadian has one. Like most left-backs, Davies can play a classical cross, but he also has the ability to go for a cutback and even a low cross, which is a very difficult skill to execute, especially if you're running at such searing pace. The fact that he has players around such as Thomas Müller and Robert Lewandowski, who love to look for space around him, means that there's always a goal-scoring opportunity if one of his crosses or cutbacks find their way home. In the same game against Chelsea, Davies made one of his trademark runs that led him to the home side's penalty area. Although he might have gone for glory, the Canadian fullback looked up and put in a low cross towards the back post, where Lewandowski simply had to show the inside of his boot to score a simple goal. This season, Davies has a 34.5% crossing accuracy, which isn't that good, but not that bad either. It's clear that the teenager has great vision when it comes to finding a teammate. While many people might think that Davies is a player who relies on pace to get the job done, this couldn't be further away from the truth. The youngster has a great footballing brain and knows exactly what he's doing. When dribbling is the right option, he will run rings around his opponent. When crossing the ball is the order of the day, he will oblige. The way Davies plays is completely in line with the tactics deployed by Flick. The youngster makes an average 58 passes per 90 minutes and has a passing accuracy of 86.1%, which is quite a phenomenal number for someone so young. In a league game against VfL Wolfsburg, Davies showed that he is quite a thinker. In one of the many attacking moves Munich created on that day, Davies had 2 options, either to run down the flank or cut inside. The youngster ended up using the latter option, which resulted in a goal-scoring opportunity. The Canadian fullback can hold his own when he cuts inside and keeps possession. This is paramount to the team's success, since Bayern like to control games while making sure that creative players such as Thiago Alcantara and Kimmich are always involved more. At the same time, it also makes Davies a far from predictable opponent. One thing that Davies will have to work hard on, however, would be his positional awareness. The youngster at times gets caught out, which isn't entirely his own fault. Bayern wingers stay up high, even if they don't have the possession of the ball. This allows opposing teams to add more numbers down the flanks. Question time. Who was the first player of Canadian descent to have won the Champions League twice? In such cases, Davies at times gets caught in 2 minds, but thanks to his pace, is able to make a recovery. However, as years tick by, the pace might start going down, which is why it is important for the teenager to start practicing more on his positional awareness, since that will come in real handy when he nears the peak years of his career. While he may not be a well-rounded fullback at the moment, being 19 means that Davies has a lot of time on his hands. As far as we can tell, the youngster doesn't seem to have a glaring problem in his armour. and the positional awareness is a trait that will develop with time as he plays more matches and understands the nature of European football better. All in all, Bayern Munich have a great player on their hands, and the same can be said of the Canadian national side, who would be eager to see their poster boy represent the Maple Leaf with great pride in the 2026 World Cup.